Hi, Susan is on vacation this week, so we actually recorded this podcast last week. So if there's anything out of place, that's why. Enjoy the show. Hi, and welcome to Human Tech, a podcast about the intersection of humans and technology. With me, as always, is Dr. Susan Weinschenk. Hello.
Hello.
And I am Guthrie. And Susan had a very peculiar request today for a podcast topic, which was old people.
I don't think it's that peculiar.
I was like, I don't even know exactly what we're going to be doing, but that's what she said. She had all kinds of research and fun stuff. So I was like, all right, sounds exciting. So yeah, it's going to be old people. Now, before we start, I just want to quickly say, everyone, you should, pause this and go like, subscribe, share, and spread the word about the podcast. And anything else you wanted to add?
I don't think it's about, I wouldn't say old people.
You literally said, let's do a podcast about old people.
And I think I said right after that, but let's not call it old people.
Well, you didn't give me an alternate title. So I went with old people.
We're supposed to say something, like a lot more politically correct, like the elderly or
Yes.
or technology for people who are aging.
I'll be the first to admit that ageism is a problem in society.
It's a very real thing, and
it's a very real thing, especially there used to be respect for elders,
and in some cultures there might still be.
It's in American culture there still is somewhat a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But especially in America, where we have where we really I think that's maybe the best thing about America is that we have a meritocracy, right? So you don't get respect just because of
you're old.
Your last name or
because you're old
or because you're old, right? You got to earn respect, and so especially young people who see, the elderly, So there's a podcast I listen to, the Tony Kornheiser Show, and Tony, after 24 years of being on the radio, is going off the radio.
Yeah.
He's deciding to own his own content instead of the radio owning it.
Yeah.
And so he's going to have the exact same show. It's literally going to be the same show. It's going to be him, the same guests, the same topics, the same round table.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a podcast, right? He's gonna record it not at the radio station. And so it's it's quote going off the air unquote, but not really. Now, do you know how to subscribe to a podcast?
Yes, I do.
So it's really it's like a very, very simple thing. But Tony, Tony's I don't know, he's maybe in his 70s. And he's got a lot of, other people who are rich people who are also in their 70s, right? And
you mean who listen to him?
Yeah. Have been listening to him for years. And so he says he's like walking around and like people be coming up and be like, oh, I'm so sorry to lose you from the air. I've been listening for forever. And he's been telling these stories where he's like, well, you can just sign up to the podcast. It's going to be the same show. Like, I'm not going away. I'm just changing the method of delivery. And I was like, no, I don't think I can figure that out. I'm just not gonna
Well,
listen.
Okay, so a couple.
But here's the funny thing.
What?
Tony has no idea how to subscribe to his own podcast.
Oh.
Like, he is maybe the worst. He was an English major who, went into sports journalism. The idea that you can listen to any audio that comes out of the headphone jack of a smartphone, he doesn't know. For the longest time, he could only use his only use his phone in the car because he didn't know how to get the audio out, except it worked in the car. The car Bluetooth worked. So that was the only place he could make calls.
Yeah. Well,
So there's a lot of jokes about it, but in reality, right, like, we especially, my generation, the idea of you get a podcast app, you type in Tony Kornheiser, you press search, you hit subscribe. It's like really simple.
Okay, a couple of comments here. So first of all, yes, there are still a lot of people who don't know what a podcast is, or if they know, they don't know how to, subscribe.
It was
or
just
download.
more. I guess what I was trying to say is, in a world of meritocracy, the gulf between the elderly and kind of your normal everyday younger user is just right. Like, think of it like cooking, right? Like, some people maybe don't know how to cook, but most people kind of understand, well, right? You cut things, you put in a pan, right? But the difference would be like young kids are basically doing like cuisine level. They're like sous videing, various, herbs and meats and stuff. And like the older people literally are like, do you have to cook the raw chicken? But how do you turn the stove on?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right? It's like seems like such a bigger, a stupid thing.
Bigger gulf. You're saying that the whole, especially with the whole technology and the we've talked on the podcast about
I think we have,
mental models.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure we have. And also, I just want to say quickly before you finish your point, I actually recently gave a big, long webinar about the different generations that you can actually watch for free online through UserZoom. So if you just Google my name, Guthrie Weinschenk, and UserZoom, you'll probably find the webinar you can watch.
Yeah, because that's a great webinar on, like you said, all about generational differences. And in that webinar, I know you talk a little bit, but we talk a lot, and I write a lot about the mental models, right, that people have. And so, yes, the mental model of how stuff works, especially if we're talking about technology stuff, is really different between the older people and younger people. And I would agree that gulf is widening as technology has, the pace of it has increased, and the diversity of it has increased. And although I don't know how many people listen to podcasts. It's actually, for those of us who are really into podcasts, who listen and, we make one, we may not realize that there are a lot of people out there, including young people, who even it's not necessarily a matter of, I don't know how to subscribe, but they're just kind of not into it. And that the big, breakthrough podcast about a year or so ago, Serial, right, about the that was like a famous podcast that all of a sudden brought, like, people were talking about it, and then millions of people started listening to podcasts because of that one podcast.
Well, I mean, people, you have been listening to radio for forever. It's really just, it's like, it's the cool thing about radio is, and I was actually thinking about this earlier. What if I told you that there was a Apple released a new service, right? And it would allow you to stream wirelessly from anywhere. You didn't even need to like sign up for any kind of, it didn't eat into your cell bandwidth.
Right.
And you could wirelessly stream music, curated playlists from anywhere. And you had all kinds of different channels. And the kicker, it was free. Right? This would be like the biggest app anyone's ever released. And it's radio, and it's been existing for 100
long
years.
Time.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is that people are actually realizing that radio, the content, in this format is great. And then, of course, the podcasts work really well because it's time delayed, and people can't watch things all the time. So it's great to have something to listen to while they're doing. Anyways, yes. So we all understand podcasts are big, and they're getting really popular.
Yeah. So I think that's a good example, though, that you just gave about the difference between older people and younger people. But I have a lot of other things to talk about older people. But you're right. You're right that there is a lot of ageism. I don't think that, and people are living to be older and older, right? So we have more older people around than we may have had in the past. And in the U.S., we had this big baby boomer generation who is now getting into that older people category. And there's a lot of them, right? So younger people encounter lots of older people. On the other hand, you made a comment to me, and this is just anecdotal. I mean, I want to get into the research in a minute, but you made a comment to me, I don't know, a year or so ago, maybe it was a couple more years ago, about the fact that millennials, your generation, so people who are like in their 20s, you alluded to the fact that they were perhaps not as ageist in some ways as other people because that they respect knowledge and expertise. It doesn't matter how old you are. If you have something interesting to say, if you know what you're talking about, that matters more than that you are, young and hip. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I think it's just meritocracy.
Okay.
If you know what you're saying, we're not we're not gonna automatically, we as in
millennials,
we're not automatically gonna treat you with respect because you're old.
But you're also not gonna.
We're not gonna dismiss you because we're old.
Okay.
If you're, however, and it's kind of interesting again. Because I know you've been worried that you will become less relevant with very young people, just
because I'm not anymore.
Because you're not a millennial.
We'll just say I'm not anymore a very young person. How about that?
Yeah,
we'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
And so this was a fear of yours, and yet you're finding that actually you're more popular with millennials
than even with the Gen X people. Yes.
So So that's interesting, and you didn't know why. And
right.
My thought was well, because you're very science based and evidence centric, and in a world of the internet where nothing is real, if you don't back up your claims, they don't exist.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting.
So you're getting So it didn't, So it helps you.
I was listening yesterday to the news on the radio, and I think it was the news, maybe it was a podcast, but there's some what sounded like to be a young reporter was talking to an old person, and I don't even remember what it was about, but this was definitely an older person because they were talking about events that had occurred, like 60, 70 years ago. So this person she was probably in her 90s. So it's definitely an older person. And listening to, it was so interesting to me to hear the reporter describe the situation, and because she said she was talking to this person, and this person looked her right in the eye as though, and she was just like going on. And it was like, well, okay, what is so unusual about you're talking to someone, they're looking you right in the eye? Because she said, they looked me right in the eye as though to make sure that I was really knew that it was just this whole description. And I thought, wow, she's just like assuming that because the woman is 90 something, she isn't going to look you in the eye, isn't going to be coherent, it just really struck me. And then you could hear the reporter talking to this woman, and she was talking like she was talking to a little child. And it was very obvious from hearing the 90-year-old woman talk that, her hearing was fine, her mental capability was fine. She didn't need to be talked to as though she were 5, So I think people just go into this like automatic mode. They just have all these assumptions, some of which are warranted, and we'll talk about the data, but some of which are not warranted about, dealing with older people. So, I would just caution everyone to don't assume that because someone is older, that means, they aren't thinking clearly. Don't assume, although we'll talk about the data on hearing, that they can't hear you, they can't see you. And don't assume that they don't know about technology. Because people, I know a lot of older people perhaps don't, but there's also older people who've been using technology longer than, millennials have been alive, right? So although they haven't necessarily been using the latest technology for 40 years, they may have been using a computer for a long time. And so I think you got to watch out for assumptions. But anyway, that's enough of my lecturing. Do you want to hear some of the data?
Yeah, sure.
So let's see. What do you want first? You want first one that is surprising, or one that's like not that surprising?
I don't care.
You don't care? Okay.
No.
All right, let's start with something that might be a little surprising. So motor skill, like the ability to, like use a mouse or use a keyboard or, just use your muscles.
Yeah.
The idea being that, motor skills decline over time. But actually the research shows that motor skills don't decline until the mid-60s. So especially fine motor skills, like that would be used if you're using a phone or, a computer or a trackpad or something. People, that doesn't even start to decline until the mid-60s. So if you got someone who's 60 years old, they can do the motor movements required to use the technology just fine. So that's one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about vision. So I think most people know this, but maybe you don't. So what's the age, Guthrie, at which people's close vision starts to decline?
I don't know. 60?
40.
Okay.
So at 40, a lot of people, not everybody, their close-up vision starts to decline. It's called presbyopia. And it's kind of like this progressive decline. And so it means that, essentially it means that it's really hard to see small stuff, like small lettering on things, whether that be on a screen or whether that be on a physical product. And so if you're designing a product that is going to be used by people that are over 40, you really got to start paying attention to font size.
Yeah.
Although the research also shows that young people who can see small fonts just fine don't like small fonts either. So you should just...
They're small. I think as screens get better, that will change.
That you think it'll be easier to read?
Well, yeah, just more pixels.
Yeah, but it's even hard, even if we're not... Well, I guess. A lot of it has to do with also not just pixels, but, the amount of light and all other kinds of stuff. So, watch out for small fonts. Okay, Katharina Reinicke.
Mm-hmm.
Her research showed that people over 40 prefer more colorful designs at websites than younger people do.
Okay.
Do you got any ideas about that one?
No, it's weird.
Do you think that's just a...
I'd have to know the specifics. I guess I don't know exactly what that means.
Well, she showed people tons and tons and tons of websites, right? And then pretty quickly. Yeah. And then asked people to just rate, how much they liked it, right? And the people who were over 40
Okay, over 40.
Over
yeah,
40. Liked more colorful websites than people who were under 40.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure why that is either.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me.
You think the young people would like more colorful?
Have you seen apps that are popular with young kids? Like messaging apps?
You're talking about like with the people who are currently teenagers and stuff? Or
yeah, like Line or Secret or Whisper. Not Secret, but
I haven't.
Line or Whisper.
Are they colorful?
Oh, yeah. There's like all kinds of crazy emojis and like colors and rainbows and little fancy animations. It's
yeah, okay.
It's just a giant, or like think of like MySpace, like back in the day when you actually got to pick what your website looked like.
Yeah.
All those young people, my God, it would just be like just like rainbows and crazy animations and things swirling and.
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Hold on. I'm looking here. I'm not sure she was looking at really young people. I think she was looking at people like from 20 to 40 versus over 40.
I mean, even 20 some.
Yeah.
And they were,
Well.
MySpace. That was the MySpace generation.
Okay. Well, I don't know. We may have to.
Wait, so you said 20 to 40?
I don't know. I just wanted to go. I'm gonna go see this.
I have a theory.
I'm gonna go see here. I'm gonna look this
theory.
up. I like in these podcasts.
My theory is that it was skewed by Gen Xers and they're lame. So
you just
they like really like boring, lame things, and like like menus that are way too big. Their design aesthetic is
there
the
are
worst.
A number of people
Not all of you
listening
Gen
to
Xers,
our
just
podcast
in
who are
general.
probably Gen Xers.
This is the make everyone angry at us podcast.
This was not.
That's gonna be my theory, at least, is that if you actually just broke it down like by like millennials, so like 18 to like 30,
Yeah.
it would maybe be skewing a little more colorful again.
That's interesting. Well, I will. I think actually.
Can I make another point?
Yeah.
So like, look at the way culture was when they were growing up. So in the 60s, right, everything was colorful and tie-dye T-shirts and
You're talking about what the people over 40?
LSD.
You're talking
What?
about the baby boomers.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so buildings were like colorful and crazy and wacky. And then the 70s, it was all just like concrete slabs were what was good looking. Like blank concrete. And, the punk and grunge, it was various shades of gray.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess there were some colorful things in the 80s, but that's just going to be my theory.
Well,
But I have no evidence to back it up. I have no reason to explain why, but that's interesting.
so what we can.
Everyone out there can come to their own conclusions.
Well, yeah, and also maybe what I'll do in the meantime is go and check Katharina's data and see about the age, because in fact I'm looking at her research right now, and maybe I can get the answer while we're on here. Here I've got the research study up. And did she say how old the people were? I'm looking. She has a really interesting thing she does called Lab in the Wild. And she puts all kinds of crazy experiments up on the internet and then collects data. She's from the University of Washington. Okay, here I have the age. While I was doing that, I was looking up the age. So participants were between 12 and 91.
It's a lot of ages.
Yeah, that's a really wide age. So maybe I don't know. I don't know why. I may email her and ask her what her theories are. Okay. Let's see. What else? What do I want to do next? I think here's a little factoid. The color blue. Your ability to see the color blue fades with age. Goes down with age. So if you use blue, as your color scheme in whatever you're designing, just understand that as people age, they're going to be less and less able to see it or to distinguish it from other shades that are, other colors that are kind of blue. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
Interesting.
All right, let's turn to something less visiony. Oh, I should say something about hearing. So, 100 million people. That's a lot of people. Over 65 in the world have hearing problems.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Well, 340 million people, or 365 million people in the world have hearing problems, but 100 million of them are over 65. So, yeah, if you're doing anything with sound, right, Now, there's all kinds of hearing-assisted devices, right? Which can help people who are having hearing problems. But, so just realize that if you're working with an older population, some of them will have some hearing problems. Okay, let's talk about not necessarily vision and hearing. Let's talk about psychological stuff. I love psychological stuff. So, the older you are, the less choices you want. That's research by Andrew Reed.
Okay.
So, if you're giving people choices about something, I don't know, what camera to buy or anything, we know that if you give anybody a lot of choices, they'll tend not to make any choice at all, right? We know. I mean, that's whole body of research about less choices is better if you want people to make a decision and take an action. But for older people, the older you are, then that becomes even more important, and the number of options needs to go down if you want people to be comfortable with making a decision.
So why do you think that is?
Oh, why do I think that is?
Closer to death, and therefore just don't care anymore.
No,
it's the same reason that the turn signal use fades over time.
Turn signal use fades over time. No, I thought the turn signal went on and it just never went off because you didn't notice it was still on.
I see.
Why would you want less choices as you get older? Okay. This is not research based. This is just
I know there's
guessing.
no research.
There might be research, and maybe Andrew Reed, who did the research on that, knows why.
No, I didn't ask. I asked, what did you think? What was your guess as to why do you think that was?
I think that when you get older, you have less patience for stuff, and you just want to you just want to get things out of the way. It's like I don't want to, everything just becomes a hassle, and it's like I don't want to, this is too much of a hassle, and so it's like just make it easier. I don't want to have to think this hard about this. I don't need a lot of options. I don't need the absolutely best spatula for the barbecue grill. I just want to turn the burgers over. I just want something. I don't have to. It's just not that important. I think that's my guess. That your idea of what's important and what's worth spending your time on changes.
So I was right.
What?
As you get closer to death, you just don't care about how many megapixels your camera has anymore. It just doesn't seem that important.
Yeah, I think that.
I like to say, I say it in like the least sensitive way possible. That's my.
You don't care if you're like insulting people or.
Well, I'm an economist. You got to talk about.
You don't have to.
You got to talk about death,
it.
and you got to talk about why people make the decisions they do. And I think fear of impending death is an important one. I probably just listen to too much Tony Kornheiser, I suppose. He's a Long Island Jew, which is a little like Bernie Sanders being he's a Brooklyn Jew, but yeah, there's just lots of jokes about being old and dying soon. So
really,
yeah, there's an ironic brevity to it, which I do appreciate.
All right. Well,
so probably not very sensitive.
No, probably not.
Should apologize in advance.
Yeah, that's good. Apologize in advance. All right. Let's see. What else do I have here? Here's one. Here's a question for you. So, regret, the feeling of regret, right? Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay. So
Why wouldn't I know
I
what
don't know.
regret is?
So do you think that
Not a monster.
as you age, you tend to feel less regret about the decisions you've made in the past or more regret?
I would say less regret.
And why would you say that?
For the same reason as why people don't care about cameras. They don't have, they don't have time to it's just not important to
Well,
worry about that stuff.
your answer is correct, although I think the reason might be a little different. But yes, so the older you get, the
My instinct was right.
less regret you feel. And regret, the research on regret is interesting, and it tends to show that people feel regret about their decision if they feel that they had different choices and options. So if you feel like, let's say that you're picking a caterer for, a special event, like a wedding or something like that, right? And you can pick this caterer or that caterer or that caterer. And then you pick one. If you had a lot of choices about which caterer to pick, then you're going to tend to feel more regretful if you don't like the food. If you had less choices, like, this was the only caterer that was available on that date, and that then even if the food turns out not to be very good, you won't feel regretful because it's like you didn't have a lot of choice. So when you get older, you tend to feel that, well, I don't have as many choices anymore. So then you feel less regret about the choices you're making.
Interesting.
Anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay. Onward. I got other quiz questions here. I like quizzing you. It's kind of fun to quiz you. All right. So what percentage of people over 65 use the internet in the year 2000? In the year 2000, what percentage of people over 65
16 years ago.
In the U.S.?
I was in 6th grade, I think.
How many people over 65 were online in 2000?
15%.
That's very close.
I know. I'm good. I'm good at all this stuff.
The answer is 14%.
I get all these questions right.
Okay. Now, year is 2016. Well, let's use the year 2015 because that's what this data was from. Mm-hmm. What percentage of people over 65 in the U.S. use the internet? In 2000, it was 15. What is it now?
I mean, it depends how you define internet usage.
Just doing anything online.
I would say 88%.
No, not that high.
82.
58.
People over 65?
Yeah.
See, I don't believe that.
You think it's higher?
What? Their kids don't show them YouTube videos when they're hanging out?
No, I think this is not. Well, this is used on you. They are using it. They're not just looking at somebody else using it.
Oh, okay. You said doing anything online.
Well, I meant they are doing it, not someone is showing something to them. Yeah, you just now want to just
email? Well,
yeah.
You think so only half of all people over the age of 65 have an email account?
Well, I'm looking.
See, that seems wrong to me.
All right. Well, this is. I think this comes from Pew, who you really use them all the time. Well, yeah.
I guess it just depends what using the internet means.
Right, and then realize they're going from 65 to 105.
Well,
what?
okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. 58 seems low to me too.
Maybe I just don't understand. Maybe I don't understand that that web graphic. I mean, and it's complicated too because technically, if you use a cell phone, anything cell phone related is actually probably internet based because it's all the HTTP protocol these days. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yeah.
But I guess
you're
regular
surprised by
internet
this.
use. Yeah, you should link me the study. I'll take a look.
You want to read that one?
Yeah. That one.
All right.
I want to get my.
I'm
going to
get your dad on that. You can dig into that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that just reaffirms that old people are Luddites. and
as usual, saying this in your very, very nice, sugar-coated way.
I sugarcoat everything. I just make it nice and easy for everyone to
you just call anyone over 65 a Luddite. That's good.
Well, is the internet the future?
I don't even know what that means. No.
What percent? Okay, so for kids under the age of for the average 20-year-old, right?
Yeah.
What percent of the things that they do is not online? Their entertainment's online.
Yeah.
Their friend groups are online.
Yeah.
Their social activities are online.
Yeah.
Their work is online. Their studying is online. Their banking is online.
Yeah.
Their music is online. They watch sports online.
Yeah, everything.
Right? Like sleeping does not happen online.
Well, no, that's
their sex is online. I don't know what to tell you.
Right,
it's
but it is. But
lives.
For older people, that is not the case.
Well,
that is absolutely not.
Is that not the definition of a Luddite?
No, a Luddite would be someone who doesn't use technology at all. But I think I don't even know what the definition of a Luddite is. But it is true that there is a big difference. I mean, because I personally know people, and I'm sure there are many of them who are, in their 70s or 80s, and a tiny, tiny fraction of their day, even. I know people who easily spend an entire day and they're not online at all, no part of their day, and day after day after day.
Maybe they're doing it right.
I don't know.
I'm not saying they're wrong.
I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying that
neither am I.
That's a huge difference. That is a big difference in age. Now, I also know people who are over 65 who spend a lot of their time online. So
yes, like I said, I mean that by and far, even older people using the internet is the rule, not the exception. But when looking at
it's at least 58%.
If you did like a econometrics regression analysis on which age cohorts would be more technology inclined, of course, the older age cohorts would be very statistically significant in that regard. So I'm not talking about any individual person, and it's definitely not that older people do not have the capability to love technology and to be just as well versed as I do.
Thank you for saying all the nice things.
Yes, from an economic correlation perspective, like analysis only.
Yeah.
By the way, Luddite, I actually kind of already knew this, but
what is a Luddite?
So it actually, I didn't know it was English.
Did you look this up?
But I knew it was based on like a clan kind of idea.
The Luddites, yes.
Yeah.
What does it
and
say?
There was a band of English workers.
Yeah.
Who were Luddites. They were textile workers.
Okay.
Weavers who feared the end of their trade.
And they were right
so
to
they protested against the newly developed labor technologies, especially cotton and woolen mills, and destroyed all the machinery.
Really?
In about 1811 to 1816. So they were literally opposed to increased industrialization or new technology because they literally went out and just destroyed the new technology so they could keep their weaving jobs.
That's fascinating.
Very fast. Yeah. Yes. It was, and then it became known as the Luddite movement.
I did not know this. I don't know. Maybe I heard this at one point, but I didn't remember it. Well, that's thank you, Guthrie.
So now through the years, it's someone who
doesn't want to use technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. All right. You ready for another one?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Which one am I going to give you next here? I have my list here. Well, here's just an interesting little thing I noticed at one point. So you know how you're signing up for a new service or something, and they want you to pick like 3 or sometimes 5 security questions?
Yeah, it's great.
Do you know that I was doing this once. I don't remember what it was, some banking thing, and you had to pick 5 questions and answers from their list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was right when I was writing my last book, 100 More Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People, and right when I was writing the chapter on generational differences. So I had this in my head. So I went through that list to see if you were like, over 70, which someone over 70 might be signing up for online banking, could you answer these questions?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's like...
You could not. Like, who was your 4th grade teacher? Someone who's 70 is probably not going to remember who the 4th grade teacher was. Or, where did you live? What was your address? Not where did you live, but what was the street address when you were in 1st grade? That was one of them. Right? It's like, I don't, if you moved a lot, which for example, I moved a lot. I mean, I don't know. And any of my street, I moved at least once a year when I was a kid. So there's no way I know any of my street addresses. So it's like, nope, not going to remember that one. I mean, there were just all the questions.
What was the make and model of your first car?
Yeah, now some people might remember that because, they might have had a special attachment to their first car. But maybe not, right? Maybe you don't remember. Yeah, every single question required you, if you were like 70, you were trying to remember things that happened 50 to 60 years ago that were not, that you were not going to remember. And I realized if you were that age, you could not have signed up for this online banking. Mm-hmm. So just watch out when you're doing those security questions because not everyone is like 20 and can remember all these things. All right, here's another one. This has to do with memory. This is from Dana Turon, a researcher about memory decline. So, we have this idea, which is somewhat true, that memory declines, right? People can't remember things as well. We were just talking about that with security questions.
Where did I put my keys?
Right.
They were right here.
But if we're talking about remembering like facts and information, or remembering, let's say that you have someone who's older and they get a computer and you show them how to back up, their hard drive, or how
it's completely gone,
or how to use a camera, or anything.
Gone.
Well, one of the things that Dana Turon found out was that sometimes it's not that they don't remember, but it is a decline in the confidence in their memory. They are not confident that what they remember is accurate, and therefore they are hesitant to go ahead and try.
In the, many of the more elderly people that I have had interactions with, just recently, completely anecdotal evidence here, have fabulous memories, and it's but much better about things that happened in the past
than about recent.
Yeah, right. Like if you were trying to remember, right? Like where did you put the box that you set somewhere last week?
Right. But if you ask them, did you guys have
tell
a
me about your trip to
when you were
Disney
growing up
World
or something, right?
Exactly. Yeah, fabulous memories, better than I have, and especially if it's something that they have done like their whole life. Like if they like music, like who's the artist and song title of the song, or some property back in the 70s that they purchased. What are all the details?
Yeah,
fabulous memories.
But if it's something that they're not confident about.
Yeah, and can I have it? I have another theory.
Yeah, go
ahead. Going back to our other research, it's possible they just don't care as much about some of this stuff.
That's true.
And so they're not going to remember it because they just don't care.
Although in this particular research that I'm talking about, what at and I'm trying to remember. I did read the study in great detail when I was writing the book, and now I don't remember what they were. She was testing them on something, more like a process or procedure for doing something. It wasn't backing up a hard drive, but similar to that. When she pushed them, right? Because at first they were like, "Oh no, I don't. I know. I'm not sure. I don't remember." Right? When she pushed them, like they had to do it from memory.
Yeah.
They remembered just fine. When they were required to, but if they weren't required, if someone would step in and do it for them, then they didn't have confidence in what they'd remember, and they were just very willing to let other people do it. So
yeah,
I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about making errors.
Okay.
And in doing tasks. Again, going back to something like, using how to focus the camera or how to back up your hard drive. So this is research by Kang and Yoon, who found no difference in completion rates for doing the tasks based on age. But the older you were, you tended to use different strategies to do the task. So older adults took more steps to get the tasks done because they were making more errors as they went along.
Yeah.
They tended to be more rigid in their, like they would try something and then if it didn't work, they'd go back and try that same thing again, instead of trying something new.
Yeah.
They didn't use their past knowledge as much as younger people did. This study also showed that they had a higher level of uncertainty about whether they were doing the right thing, so they didn't trust themselves. And they tended to use more trial and error than younger people. So
interesting.
I thought that was interesting too. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, so I think some of the most interesting stuff that's going on with older people. Let's talk about older people and music. Have you seen some of the videos showing, very old people in nursing homes who, are pretty much unresponsive to other people around them, but then they don't remember anything, and they can't even carry on the conversation, and then they give them an MP3 player of some kind with music from their past. Like they talk to a family member and say, what kind of music did this person used to like? And they put together a playlist of music from that person's past.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of these videos?
No.
Oh,
obviously.
It's amazing. So there's this guy who, and I should have looked this up and gotten his name. So I may have to, on another episode, I may have to tell you who it is. But he's been doing this in nursing homes. So when they put the headphones on the person and turn on the playlist, you just see these people totally come alive. They start moving, they start smiling, they start singing. They know all the lyrics. These are people who supposedly don't remember anything, and here they are remembering all the song lyrics. They start talking. It's just this amazing change happening through music, and the research is or the idea about the research is that the music is stimulating parts of their brain, and that's actually then stimulating other parts of their brain, and they're kind of waking up.
Yeah, sure.
From a pretty deep, almost catatonic state. So,
Wow.
The power of music to help people, and it helps them physically, mentally. I think that's great. So if you do know anyone, if you have any relatives that are, not doing well in a nursing home, I would definitely suggest you try that technique, because it's not that hard to do, or not very expensive either, and doesn't even
Very cool.
involve drugs. So other stuff that's going on institutionally. By the way, that guy in this video, he has a very hard time getting in to do this at the nursing homes.
Oh, I believe it.
That surprised me. Why do you say you believe it? I mean, he said he couldn't believe it. How many? Like he had raised money, for the, I don't know what he was using, iPod Nanos or something, right? So he had raised money for the equipment and volunteers to do the playlists. So it's not like the staff had to do the work.
Yeah.
But he has many nursing homes that say no, we're not interested.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of regulatory stuff. There's HIPAA stuff. There's insurance stuff. There's a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
There's private nursing home companies doing certain stuff.
Doesn't surprise you.
I'm not really surprised. Honestly, that whole thing is just a giant legal mess. So.
Okay, well, we'll let that go.
Yeah, it's like one of the unspoken problems
that we don't want to deal with, right?
Industry.
Right.
But yeah, it's really bad, and insurance doesn't cover it, and anyways.
All right, well,
robots. That's the secret.
I know.
That's the home. So people can get care at home and not have to
go to the nursing home.
It's way cheaper, and everyone's happier with the whole situation.
All right. So another thing, though, again going back to institutions. So there's some nursing homes that are putting in daycare centers in the building. Have you heard about this one?
No.
So this started, I'm not sure in what community, but there was some relatively small city that there was a daycare center in town, and they were losing their building for some reason, and they didn't have a building to go into, and the nursing home had some spare room, and they said, well, you can, at least temporarily, you can put your daycare center here. And they did, and it turned out to be this amazing thing where so the daycare little kids, come and visit with the older people at least once a day, and the old people, read them stories and play with them, and everybody loved it. It's like the kids loved being around the old people, and the old people loved being around the kids, and so some places are starting that as a model.
Sure.
Which I think is a great idea.
I think it's a great idea, too.
There's another model going on. There's other things that are going on with again, institutionally. So there are places that are pairing high school students with nursing homes so that the high school students come in and kind of coach and mentor the older people in computers. Mm-hmm. And everybody seems to be, the high school students enjoy that, and the nursing home residents enjoy that. So that's going on. And then there's even programs where older people, not necessarily nursing homes, but just older people are paired with young people in other countries who are trying to learn. For instance, an old person in the U.S. is paired with a young person somewhere who's trying to learn English. And they get together on Skype, like at least once a week. And they just talk on Skype. And this is a great thing because it helps the young person learn English, right? And for the older people, because loneliness is a real issue for the elderly. Because a lot of times, their friends have passed on, their spouse has passed on.
Yeah,
their children, they may be outliving their children, or their children live far away and are very busy. And so, this gives the old people, really look forward to their once a week or twice a week Skype conversation with a, young, interesting person from another part of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And the young person really appreciates just the opportunity to have like informal, spontaneous conversations about in the language you're trying to learn. So I thought that was like a great idea.
Yeah, these are all
aren't they
these are
interesting
all
ideas?
good ideas.
Yeah, yeah. So that might be. Let's see. I'm looking over my list. Did we talk about everything I had on my list? So baby boomers now are, hitting the elderly phase, right? Baby boomers are going to be anywhere from about. I think the close of the baby boomer year is probably 1960 in terms of when they were born. So how old is someone born in 1960?
It was 70.
No.
Wait, 1960. Sorry, 56.
56. So some people who are boomers, the youngest of them are not elderly yet, right? They're just middle age. But you've got, some of the baby boomers are like in their 70s now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is not super, super old. But you have this huge group of people that are now going to be marching into elderliness, and they're going to be an interesting force to be reckoned with, and probably need a lot of help, and but probably are. Oh, here's one thing I forgot to talk about. The fastest growing segment of Facebook is older women. Did you know that?
Yeah, I know. That's why the
people
fastest shrinking cohort of Facebook is younger people.
Now why is that?
It
doesn't matter, right? You don't just because they're. I mean, you don't interact with everybody that's on Facebook.
Yeah, you do. That's literally like you interact with all your friends.
Well, yeah, I know, but if you don't have old
unless
friends,
you really go through the hassle of excluding certain people, but then you're excluding them. That feels so
bad. So the fact
you're like purposely like excluding grandma,
that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa got on Facebook
because the first thing they're gonna do is they're gonna friend request you, and you can't be like.
But then you do not want to see
interact with
the
you,
posts
grandma.
about about the garden.
So right, so it's like
Yeah.
Like you can't like post like, oh my god, I like smoked so much weed before going to work today.
Yeah.
You know, you don't
or
want
your pictures of you partying. Yeah, it's a problem.
Or even just like just like stupid stuff from the internet, even if it's not maybe personally embarrassing, but like.
Or how about posting all the things that aren't true? You know, all the hoaxes and all the.
Or or on the flip side, right? Is you just you post something cool. You're trying to impress like another like this hot boy who's in your class, right?
Yeah.
And you know that he's super into this band.
Yeah.
And so you like post something and like tag him.
Yeah.
Be like, oh my god, like we should totally go, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like how great is this? And then like your grandma like comments like, wow, that's super cool. You have to tell me all about them. And you're like, oh yeah, it's a cool band.
Okay,
and then they comment back
I get it. All right.
Yeah, well, yeah, right? So it's just.
So that's why young people are leaving Facebook. Okay.
No, well, maybe not leaving, but maybe not.
It's not
posting all their thoughts and feelings.
main choice for.
Well, because look, it's the same reason people don't like being in the closet. You don't like self-censoring is no fun for anyone ever.
Yeah.
Having to constantly monitor and self-censor.
Think about, do I really want to post this?
Do this. Yeah, it's just, it's not fun.
I got you.
So they're going to find a place to not do that. Anyways, anything else?
No, that's it. That's my list of older people and technology.
Wow. Okay. Again, this is Human Tech. My name is Guthrie. You can go to theteamw.com, find out all about us. Anyone out there, if you want to bring me in, I can give the presentation, me or Susan, on the sock hop to Snapchat, the differences in the generational differences, something like that. We also have courses at the courses.theteamw.com. Please share, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Tell your grandma about the show.
That's right.
They can listen to me blab about various things.
Yeah.
And be disrespectful to everyone
old people
equally.
And everyone else.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
And hey, you're going to be going on vacation soon, right?
Well, people are going to be listening to this while I'm
I don't
on
know when we're
vacation.
releasing this.
I think while I'm on vacation.
Okay. Well, have fun on vacation.
Okay.
If I don't hear from you. And yes, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.